This is Nitin Dahad with E-Times, and I'm talking to Maite Bezerra, who's an automotive analyst with Ward's Intelligence. And actually, we've been at the Qualcomm Automotive Workshop this week in San Diego, and we had some very interesting presentations and demos around the Snapdragon Ride and cockpit, and all around AI and intelligence and SDVs. But there's quite a lot to take in, but I'm going to talk to Maite just to figure out what she thought about what's going on and what are the real things coming out of it. Maite, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and thank you for having me. And I'm really enjoying the sunshine.
You know, San Diego, sunshine. What else is there? Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
and we're going back to England very soon.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we had some various presentations around, I think, 2 or 3 areas, which was basically on the autonomous driving. But and I posted on LinkedIn a few days ago, and I think people said autonomous driving. But I think it's all around the pathway to L3, L4, and then also we had stuff around the cockpit experience. What are your initial thoughts?
I thought it was great. I think with Qualcomm we immediately think cockpit, because we know Qualcomm from the smartphones. But in this workshop they focused a lot on ADAS and autonomous driving, so we had some demos which was really interesting. But what I really liked was to understand the evolution. So they started developing their autonomous driving and ADAS stack as different parts, and now they are evolving to an end-to-end system. So it's like of a journey, and we could actually see how Qualcomm is acquiring the capabilities in this area and actually deploying a solution that seems pretty much ready.
So we heard end-to-end quite a lot. I think Anshuman Saxena, who on automotive, but also I think the others who spoke and also on the demos. What does that actually mean? And for the OEM and ultimately the consumer, what does that mean?
Well, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
I would say for the consumer, it means probably having more autonomous, higher levels of autonomous systems in a shorter time to market, and perhaps systems that work better than the systems that we know so far. This is some things to figure out, but the time to market is definitely shorter. The costs also are lower. And essentially is a system that gets the data, so the input data from the sensors, and comes out with the actions that the vehicle should have. So this is why it's called end-to-end. Everything happens in this sort of black box.
Okay.
But of course what Qualcomm is saying is that you need to have some safety guard in there, right? So you have to have a parallel system that would actually use the traditional way of seeing where the vehicle are, where the road is, using map data to actually validate if what this end-to-end system is concluding makes sense or not, and then you send the signal to the actuators.
Yeah, we heard a lot about safety guards and safety rails. I'm not sure I've heard it a lot in, we hear it a lot about AI, but not in the autonomous vehicles area or the ADAS. So it's quite interesting because one of the things I think we heard is they develop a generic solution for 90% of the world, and then 10% is localization, depending on local rules and regulations and DMV or whatever it is. Is that right?
Yes, I loved that, because it's one question that we have. So I come from Brazil. I know Brazil is a very chaotic place to drive. India is also a very chaotic place to drive. Yeah. So what we're talking to Qualcomm is when you develop a autonomous driving stack, you need to have some things of the system are generic, and so generalized, you can use in different regions. But the proportion decided is 90% is generic, and then you have the 10% that you need to learn from the local region that has to be adapted.
But I raised a question in the open group, as like that 10% is probably a lot of compute, a lot of extra software, because India and Brazil are really, there's a lot of corner cases, aren't there?
That is so true. But one thing that they said, and this is their learning curve, isn't it? If you learn to drive in India and if you learn to drive in Brazil, it's a lot easier to drive in other places where you have a more controlled environment.
Yeah. And I mean, we had the other the thing. I mean, I spoke to Mark Granger and around this AI is the new UI as a user interface. I found that a little bit cheesy, but I think at the end of the day, what they're trying to say is, well, you can now interact with your car in a natural language way, and it'll do things. But the thing is, it's not sending stuff to the cloud. You're doing everything on the edge, so you need to have a lot of models trained on the edge. Is that? I mean, what was your take on that?
I honestly think this is Qualcomm's unique selling point. I love the idea. I know it's cheesy, but I agree that AI is a new UI. So when you have this natural language interaction with this voice assistant, let's call it this way, I think the nice part is actually what is happening in the background, which are the agents that would each be responsible for a single task, and you have the transformers that make all of the system work in a seamless way. So translating into normal terms, that means you don't actually need to activate an app to start a functionality. You just interact with your vehicle using your normal way of speaking. The vehicle will understand, activate the functionality for you, and you would only see the application working. And I think Qualcomm is really well positioned because of their experience in edge devices. And I honestly think that we're going in a very disruptive
Really? Okay.
path in there.
I mean, I was a little bit skeptical, but I think I can see where you're coming from. The other thing was around the connected services, and I was totally skeptical about that. We had the demonstration because they've got the thing with JP Morgan and the unique transaction key for the financial transactions, personalization, and the kind of stuff was like, okay, I can find the nearest restaurant and book a takeaway or things like that, but a takeout, but that's not going to really sell, is it? What is it about the connected services that you think are key here?
That's a very good question. I had a follow-up discussion with Qualcomm because I think when we go for the use cases, to show the use cases, we often think of the use cases that we are using in our phones already, right? But if you go on that way, you're competing with Google, you're competing with Apple, and I use my phone for that. Why would I use the car?
Yeah.
So, but this is not all what they're enabling. Actually, the connected services is the enabling capability. Everything that is in the car and goes to the cloud is using the connected services platform. And you can also use for car-centric use cases. So for example, I want to purchase a automated parking functionality or a driveway, automated driveway system. So I will go to my car, and because I have this token that identifies me, it will be easier to make the payment. So it's I know we usually focus on these use cases that I can do that with my phone, but actually you can do way more of that.
Yeah, I think Qualcomm didn't really focus on the real use cases. They're doing a lot of those convenience applications, which I think is probably not what's going to get them the real volume.
I completely agree. Agree.
So, what was? I mean, what's intelligence? What do you do? You're basically providing a service for the automotive industry. Is that right?
That's correct. So I specialize in software-defined vehicles. So what I do, what I live and breathe is understanding this transition that the automotive industry is going to digitalized services.
Yeah.
So, like as I just told you, AI, I think all of these functionalities are coming to the car now. They have been in other industries that have digitalized before. So now we are seeing the vehicle, the automotive ecosystem really transitioning into this new paradigm. And this is what I do. This is what I provide feedback and suggestions to automakers and the traditional analyst service.
So what we saw at Qualcomm today, I think they talked about the ecosystem, the partners. Do you think that was quite a positive thing that we heard from them?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think they're going in the right direction. It's a very difficult path. And I must be honest, I think when you think about software-defined vehicles, we know that a lot is going on in China and they are ahead of the curve. But from my perspective, I don't think anyone has found the magical formula that will bring SDV to the mainstream market yet.
Okay.
So I think Qualcomm is positioning itself to help OEMs in this journey.
Well, Maite, I loved that conversation with you. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
you've got now got to go and get a plane, so
Exactly.
I will leave you to it, and we'll catch up again soon.
Fantastic. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.